welcome you all to Trek Wars. Alright guys, so today in Trek Wars, we're going to be looking at cruisers. This is going to be a bonus video because there is an issue with the amount of time that my device is allowing me to upload videos with. So for that reason, I had to cut the video down to only 30 minutes max, and that caused you guys to miss out on some information that I want to share with you about cruisers, so you're going to get this bonus video. Okay, with that being said, let's go take a look at the shields. So the first thing that when I'm looking at cruiser shields is they are just absolutely significantly better than destroyers at a huge level. So you can see that the Shanks there at 1.34 is pretty much garbage when it comes to shields, and I don't like that ship, and we had a discussion about that. And you can see that almost all the other ships are like 9 point something. So you know that these shields are definitely built to battle and battle for a consistent amount of time. Even a like ratio of 5 and above is still phenomenal. So you're at least 4 times better than the average ship out there if you have a refreshment rate. So all these ships are really good at combat. Now, two of the exceptions that stand out when it comes to those shields is definitely the breakdown of the command cruiser. Now, the Hatfield command cruiser 7.85 is really powerful shielding. So it means that nothing is going to be able to hit its shields and cause the shield generator to just overload. The same thing is happening with the Cheetah. And so I want to kind of share a formation that I think would be used with small cruiser fleets that are engaging enemies, and how these dynamics of these weapons and their systems are going to function. Okay, so let's break down what these fleets are going to look like. So in the back there, we're going to have our command cruiser. That's the one that looks like the Reliant, but part of the Constitution hull. So that ship is obviously commanding. It's where the admiral of the fleet would be, or the commander of the fleet. It's got the best communication systems by far. And then I really think that the Dreadnought would probably not be in the front lines, but would be protecting the command cruiser. And then next in line would be our more mid-level cruisers, which is going to be things like the Podesti, which is a really good ship, very similar to the Constellation. And then obviously the light cruisers, which is the Shanks. They're just really there as like a backup case the cruisers are wiped out. So our standard cruiser, which is the Enterprise class, which is the heavy cruiser, they're obviously in the front there, and they're the ones taking the most of the damage. And then in the very front, probably one of the most important pieces of your fleet is obviously your logistics, which is your sensors. So the Cheetah is so much faster than any ship in this fleet that it would definitely have to operate on its own. So it's going to operate as your scout ship. And it's a really good scout ship because it has phenomenal sensor systems. All right, so let's do some more analysis. So the upper right corner, we look at the construction. You can see that most of these ships are not built in large numbers, but the Potesi, and then obviously the Enterprise and the Shanks are in large numbers. So those are the ships that are going to consist most of your fleet dynamics. And then the other ships that are in there are, you can obviously, the numbers are low. They're going to be more supplements and specialties. And then when we look at the ECM technology, obviously the Hatfield is blowing everyone out of the water by a significant amount. Like at 1.32, that's a huge difference in sensor capabilities and ECM technology. And then that ship is also the strongest ship in the fleet, so which makes sense. It's the command cruiser, it's got the strongest hull, and then obviously right behind is the Dreadnought. Now the Dreadnought doesn't really have as much weapons as you would think a Dreadnought has. So I mean, at 12 phasers, it's a lot of phasers, but there's no mega phasers, and almost none of these ships use mega phasers except for the command cruiser. So I really think that those two are going to be kind of supporting one another in case the other ships, something gets past them. And when we look at some of the other stats, is for an example, the length, these ships are in the 300 range. They're all big ships except for two of them. The crew obviously is large. Like the smallest is 346, still a decent sized crew, but they're in the 400 range. And then obviously the command cruiser is 520. When we look at the cargo, all these ships for the most part have good cargo except for two of them, and that's obviously the Cheetah and the Shanks. They're operating more of destroyer roles, except for the Cheetah has obviously got much better shielding. Now, when it comes to weapons, which is going to be the next category where we kind of look at this, we compare these ships. The phaser power, the phaser power index is honestly all around one, pretty close to one. I mean, some of the other ships have the 1.13, and then the lowest one is 0.73. The only one that has really bad charging rates is the Cheetah. So everyone else is in that acceptable, pretty close one area. And when it comes to actual phaser banks, every single one of these ships has, standard and above. Now, when it comes to weaponry, these ships are all fantastic. They're definitely above average. So the Cheetah and the Shanks, the weapon layout is 6, and that does seem kind of low for a cruiser. But realistic, when you think about ships of the time period, 6 phaser banks is more than most enemy cruisers even have, or are about equivalent. So I really wouldn't consider them low. It's just Federation ships are just really, really especially the cruisers, are really created for that up close combat and long. They're expected to fight like a tank. And they don't have mega phasers. Mega phasers is more of a weapon that seems to be a derivative of frigates, and that'll be the next video that we get into. And I have some theories about that, but we will save that for the frigate video. So they have standard torpedoes, nothing too exciting about any of these ships. And then when it comes to sensor ranges, obviously the long range sensors of these ships are almost all identical. They're pretty similar. They're really close to the one category, except for obviously the Cheetah, which is fantastic at 1.98, which is amazing. So it's really, really good. I mean, this thing can see twice as far as any of the other ships. Now, when it comes to short range, the Cheetah is not really great at short range. I don't think the Cheetah is meant to be in combat, honestly. So it's honestly not very good at 0.78. But all the other ships' short range is all what we'd be expecting, and it's around that one range. Now, when it comes to shuttles, for whatever reason, the Hatfield, I mean, it's operating with a lot of shuttles. It has a lot of builds, a large ship. Every other ship in this category is is basically subpar. Like they have the bare minimum shuttles, and there's nothing relevant about the shuttles. So cruisers are not using shuttles really at all, at all. That is going to be used at other groups. And then when we get to impulse power, some of the things that we look is we want a ship to have 1. And 1 is a very acceptable speed for larger ships like cruisers. And so all these ships are doing pretty good, except for the command cruiser. The command cruiser is at 0.78. It's basically a flying brick. And the same thing can be said about the Dreadnought at 0.85. That's also not very maneuverable. All these other ships are extremely maneuverable. The light cruiser is definitely maneuverable. It has the speed of a destroyer. Now, the warp power, when you look at these ships, they're all 1 or above, which is good. So they all have good warp power. Warp power is pretty simple. Think of it about as excess energy to be used to different systems. So the light cruiser has 1.45, so we know that it's using a larger engine than most ships its size are using, and we know that obviously the Cheetah has got probably the largest reactor or 2 in that small frame to run those 4 engines at 2.21 is insanely powerful. Now, when it comes to optimal speed, we want 4. Most of these ships are above that. So we can see the command cruiser is fast, we can see the Dreadnought is fast, and we can see the fast cruiser is extremely fast. So all these things get high marks there. The same thing can be said about max speed. And when it comes to emergency speed, they're all pretty much in the same category around warp 8 to 8.5, the exception being the Cheetah at 9.5. All right, so I think the next video that we're going to do is we're going to focus on the frigates for the Federation. Now, there are at least 3 more or 4 more sections of Federation starships, but that's starting to get a lot, and so I think I'm going to switch it up a little bit. We'll talk about the Romulans and the Klingon ships, but I want to tell you we're going to do it a little bit different because the Romulan ships and the Klingon ships, the data system is way different, and I had to calculate it from multiple books. But the main ones that I'm using, they actually don't give you too much actual physical data like the Federation ships have, but they give you a lot of tradition and history around the ships. And I'll be honest with you, some of the stuff that they say about their ships is hilarious because you get the perspective of other races about their ship and what they think of their ship. And straight up, the Klingons sometimes call their ships pieces of targ, which is like poop, I guess. It's pretty hilarious, and so I definitely want to share that stuff with you guys because I've actually seen some of the lore that's coming from these books, and it's funny hearing them talk crap about their own starships, and I really want you guys to hear that and see that because it's freaking hilarious. Oh yeah, and if you guys are wondering what the weird animation is, I've been experimenting with this app, and it allows me to do stupid stuff like this. Thank you for watching Trek Wars. If you like this material, please subscribe and make a comment. And with that being said, victory is life.